No one tells you this, but addiction doesn't always feel like sadness. It can look like scrolling, drinking, and ultimately self-avoidance. If addiction isn't always about substances, could it really just be about loneliness? What we know about addiction is linked to the striatum, which is a part of the brain, social neural chemistry, and it's responsible for oxytocin. When it becomes hypersensitive, that is when addiction becomes a problem. Striatum is an autopilot that runs on emotional and sensory conditions. When we are deprived of a social connection or authentic connection with family, with friends, with our culture, it is then turned into a very hypersensitive that looks for anything in its environment that can help it get that social connection. In this context, we're on about social media and scrolling on your phone. Why is it so easy to call alcohol a problem but not phone habits? It's digital denial. People that have been brought up with phones and this is their life, basically. It's easier for them to have this denial, have the sense of this is a part of me now. There's no other way of living. They don't know when it's work and when it's not work. Like there should be a limit, we should have a distinction. Addiction within the phones, it's going to be way bigger than alcohol, it's going to be way bigger than drugs, because we don't know when to draw the line. Cultural normalization as well. A lot of the time now we have children playing on iPads. In schools, everywhere you go, they have this opportunity to just be on their phones and almost disconnected from the family and the friends around them. Even when people have screen time limits, most of the time people just go over it. There's no actual self-discipline in place to support people and children to get to a place of connection when we have a big digital media distraction going on. Like I said, there's positives to it, but there's a lot of negatives too. If addiction is really a symptom, what's the wound underneath? This is when it gets a lot more interesting, because yes, loneliness can be a core problem and nobody wants to be lonely because we're social creatures, and loneliness means less ability to survive. There's a lot of issues that come from being lonely. But what actually gets people to a state of being lonely in the first place? I've been lonely. Everybody's been lonely. You've probably been lonely. People don't really get to escape loneliness. Like, it's just a part of life. Loneliness becomes a problem when you have fears of connecting with people due to judgment, historical judgment. So you might have felt rejected, or abandonment issues. Abandonment is, yes, you know this person is going to leave, you know this parent is going to leave, so I better look after myself or protect myself before that happens. I've dealt with my set of abandonment issues and I'm still dealing with them. It's almost like you open up a new can of worms every year. Abandonment wounds make people think, I don't need to connect with people because the people that I relied on as a kid to connect with me were never there in the first place. So I know there's going to be other people that do that to me. So I need to protect myself. I need to leave people first before they leave me. So why should I reach out? Why should I try and connect authentically? Also, the barrier to an authentic relationship when you have abandonment issues or anxious attachment issues or disorganized is so much higher. It is a lot more harder to meet that barrier because not only are people unreliable and untrustworthy and just as whimsical as me and you are, you're also dealing with childhood wounds that made you think that person's definitely not trustworthy. These connections can never be authentic because what does authentic connection even look like? If the foundation is flawed, if there's trauma, if there's abandonment issues, how can we ever get to a state of wholeness? How can we ever get to a state of transcendence, community, connection, when we've never had that in the first place? So what do people do? They rely on substances. They rely on quick fixes. They rely on anything that could help them get rid of this terrible sense of isolation, which the striatum really hates, by the way. It absolutely despises social isolation because that is what it's meant for. What needs to happen here is a lot of internal process fixes, a lot of trauma healing, a lot of abandonment healing, reconnecting to the self. That's why it's so hard for people with addiction to even face themselves, because it's constant fixes, it's constant distractions, television, media, phones, drinking, out with friends, anything to avoid sitting with the self, because the self feels so internally flawed. Okay, this is very much shame-based as well. What would it mean to treat ourselves with care instead of control. To treat oneself with care after all of this mess is actually one of the hardest things you could ever do. Hence why there's so many programs for addictions as rehabs and all of that. But on this topic of media and scrolling and not knowing when to stop, when is sickness, when is normal, start with spiritual self-discipline. Taking time to literally just do nothing. That's the easiest way of being conscious and self-aware. Whenever I catch myself in situations where it's constant busyness, it's constant distractions, whenever I catch myself maybe feeling and acting ways which I know I would not normally do, that's when I know I need to sit in silence. And this is so easy, but very hard. It's in those moments that sitting in silence actually matters the most. Some of my problem solving best skills are honestly taking a shower, going for a walk, or just literally laying down and doing nothing. And why does it work so well? It's because we allow our mind to kind of get rid of the external thoughts. So the constant thoughts that you might have, they'll eventually disappear. And what happens with that is you'll get the core wounds. You get the core, okay, it was never really about the money. Okay, it was never really about the relationship. Okay, it was never really how successful I am or how successful I am not. It's about my internal feelings of not being adequate enough. Always past situations. So once you start to uncover that, by uncover, I literally just mean notice it and just feel it. It's so easy, practically. Emotionally, it's not easy at all. Hence why you've been avoiding it. Hence why we all avoid it. Because who wants to sit down and face their fears face to face? And then, of course, the next step is to take action on these fears, is to start replacing addictions or fixes or phone habits with time to really authentically express yourself to people. You can have social connections, but for you to feel like they're authentic, you need to express your authenticity first. You need to start expressing how you feel. There's going to be people that might not respond well to it, but eventually you can just cut these people out and you'll find people that do mesh with that. And if you're not saying it to other people, at least say it to yourself so you know exactly what it feels like to be authentic because you've never had it before. That being said, no issue with the internet. Like I said, it's not a gun that kills people, it's people that kill people with guns. So it's not the internet that's the problem, then the phone's not the problem, it's our way of dealing with our loneliness when it comes to the symptoms of addiction. I have really enjoyed doing these topics. I usually relate them to my psychology modules. I have really enjoyed teaching what I pay to learn and putting it on here for free and also relating it to spirituality. Actual practical tips. So if you like that, subscribe and like and share the video if you want. It's been lovely and I'll catch you next week. Bye.